Today we expose 7 butter brands that use heritage marketing to hide systematic quality destruction, targeting trusting British families. Among the revelations is how Anchor's Farm fresh New Zealand imagery masks dairy that travels thousands of miles, losing freshness and nutritional value. We will also reveal how budget supermarket butters use higher heat processing, which makes fats harder to digest for sensitive senior stomachs. Sainsbury's positions its butter as reliable supermarket quality with traditional appeal. The familiar orange packaging with its clean design suggests honest dairy value, a staple for budget-conscious families across Britain. It is the butter many of us grew up with, sitting in our parents' fridges and spread across our morning toast without a second thought. But looking beyond the familiar packaging reveals a different story. Nutritional analysis shows this supermarket staple systematically threatens cardiovascular health through hidden sodium manipulation. Each 10-gram serving contains approximately 0.1 gram of salt, which might seem minimal, but adds up quickly when you consider how many times you might use it throughout the day. For seniors managing hypertension or heart conditions, this silent sodium loading becomes particularly problematic. Many older adults are already on medication regimens that require careful sodium monitoring. The seemingly innocent butter on their morning crumpet could be actively working against their prescribed medications. What is more concerning is the inconsistent quality of the butterfat itself. Sainsbury's sources its dairy from various suppliers depending on cost fluctuations, meaning the nutritional profile varies dramatically. This inconsistency is particularly problematic for those with sensitive digestions or specific dietary needs. Unlike premium grass-fed alternatives, Sainsbury's butter often comes from conventional dairy operations where cows are not pasture-fed year-round. This significantly reduces the natural omega-3 fatty acids and fat-soluble vitamins found in properly produced butter. You are paying for a nutritionally inferior product disguised as everyday reliability. For seniors already navigating complex health considerations, this commonly trusted butter becomes a daily cardiovascular risk factor. The convenience of grabbing it during your weekly shop masks its potential to interfere with heart medications and blood pressure management. That familiar orange package represents not tradition, but a systematic compromise of health for profit margins. Flora Buttery represents one of the most brazen examples of marketing deception in British supermarkets. The product name itself, the word buttery, deliberately evokes butter while carefully avoiding legal restrictions on what can be labelled as actual butter. The packaging further reinforces this visual deception with creamy colours and traditional dairy cues. This calculated naming strategy specifically targets consumers seeking butter alternatives without fully understanding what they are purchasing. Flora Buttery is not butter at all. It is a vegetable oil spread designed to mimic butter's taste and texture while keeping a lower price and spreadable convenience. The product contains a cocktail of palm oil, rapeseed oil, water, salt, emulsifiers E471, sunflower lecithin, the preservative potassium sorbate, citric acid, natural flavorings and vitamins. For older adults with sensitive digestive systems, these industrial emulsifiers and preservatives can trigger significant discomfort. Research increasingly links these food additives with disruptions in gut bacteria and intestinal inflammation, particularly problematic for seniors already managing conditions like IBS or acid reflux. The easy-spreading texture marketed as convenience comes at a biological cost. The product achieves this texture through industrial processing that creates a chemical structure entirely different from natural butter. Your digestive system must work harder to process these laboratory-engineered fats compared to naturally occurring dairy fats. Most concerning is how this product exploits trust in traditional terminology. Many seniors grew up with real butter and associate the term with quality dairy. Flora deliberately leverages that trust while delivering something fundamentally different, a highly processed industrial oil blend, masquerading as traditional dairy. The legal loopholes exploited here represent a systematic attack on consumer understanding. When your butter is not legally butter and contains chemicals potentially aggravating age-related digestive sensitivities, the convenient spreadability becomes a Trojan horse for industrial oils and additives entering your diet under false pretenses. Number 5. Aldi Cowbell Everyday Essentials. Aldi's budget butter offerings, marketed under brands like Cowbell and Everyday Essentials, have built their reputation on affordability. These products promise essential dairy quality at prices significantly lower than premium alternatives. For pensioners and families on fixed incomes, these butters appear to offer nutritional necessity without financial strain. However, this affordability comes with hidden biological costs that disproportionately affect older consumers. Budget butter production typically involves higher temperature processing methods that fundamentally alter the fat structure. These altered fats become significantly harder for aging digestive systems to properly break down and metabolize. The manufacturing process for these budget options often uses reconstituted cream rather than fresh cream, along with additional stabilizers to ensure a consistent texture despite lower quality ingredients. While legally still butter, the nutritional profile and digestibility differ substantially from traditionally produced options. For seniors already navigating age-related digestive changes, these harder-to-process fats can trigger uncomfortable bloating, slower digestion, and gastric distress. The cruel irony is that budget constraints often lead those most vulnerable to digestive complications toward the very products most likely to cause digestive distress. The seemingly simple act of saving a pound on butter can trigger a cascade of digestive consequences requiring expensive remedies. Antacids, digestive enzymes, or medications for reflux become necessary companions to budget butter consumption, effectively cancelling any financial savings while introducing new health challenges. What makes this particularly insidious is how the marketing targets economic vulnerability. Pensioners living on fixed incomes face impossible choices between financial survival and physical comfort. The budget butter that seems financially responsible becomes a false economy when considering the hidden digestive costs. Aldi has built its reputation on providing affordable alternatives to premium products, but in this case, the cost-cutting measures directly impact those least able to manage the health consequences. When your affordable butter requires digestive medication to tolerate comfortably, the savings become a biological tax on already vulnerable systems. Number 4. Tesco Value and Tesco Butter. Tesco's butter range represents one of Britain's most widely consumed dairy products, with both the value and standard options appearing in millions of shopping trolleys weekly. The familiar blue packaging promises reliable quality, everyday butter for everyday British families. Yet beneath this accessibility lies a calculated nutritional compromise that particularly impacts older consumers. Tesco's butter formulations typically contain higher percentages of saturated fats compared to premium grass-fed alternatives. While all butter naturally contains saturated fat, the ratio and quality differ dramatically based on dairy sourcing and production methods. Unlike butter from grass-fed cows, which contains beneficial nutrients like vitamin K2, conjugated linoleic acid, and balanced omega fatty acids, conventionally produced butter offers significantly fewer nutritional benefits while maintaining the same cardiovascular considerations. You're getting all the potential downsides of butter consumption with fewer of the redeeming nutritional qualities. This nutritional compromise specifically impacts seniors, who often have greater needs for fat-soluble vitamins and anti-inflammatory nutrients to support aging bodies. The penny pinching at the supermarket translates to nutritional deprivation that can accelerate age-related health challenges. What is particularly troubling is how economic necessity forces this nutritional compromise. Pensioners managing tight budgets often have no practical alternative to these nutritionally inferior options. The few pence saved today potentially contribute to increased healthcare needs tomorrow, a cruel equation that exploits financial vulnerability. Tesco's positioning of these products as everyday essentials normalizes this nutritional compromise, making it seem like a reasonable standard rather than a systematic reduction in food quality. The blue packaging represents not just everyday reliability, but the acceptance of inferior nutrition as the new normal for those with limited financial resources. For older Britons who grew up with traditionally produced butter containing naturally beneficial fatty acid profiles, today's mass-market alternatives represent a silent nutritional downgrade disguised as familiar necessity. The trusted supermarket butter becomes a vehicle for nutritional poverty, targeting those already navigating economic constraints. Country Life Butter has masterfully positioned itself as the embodiment of traditional British dairy excellence. Its iconic packaging with green pastures and rural imagery creates an immediate association with agricultural heritage and wholesome production. The Union Jack prominently displayed further reinforces its positioning as a patriotic choice supporting British farming traditions. This careful brand construction creates a powerful emotional appeal, particularly for older consumers who remember a time when local dairy meant consistent quality and trustworthy production. Country Life deliberately evokes nostalgia for simpler times when food production seemed more connected to traditional farming methods. However, nutritional analysis reveals that beneath this heritage, marketing lies a product that poses specific health challenges for the very consumers most drawn to its traditional positioning. Country Life butter contains approximately 80% fat, with roughly 50 grams of saturated fat per 100 grams, levels that exceed recommended intake limits even with moderate consumption. For seniors managing cholesterol levels and cardiovascular health, this creates a particularly problematic situation. The very product whose traditional imagery appeals most to their sense of food heritage potentially undermines their health management efforts. 2 slices of toast with generous Country Life applications can easily exceed daily recommended saturated fat intake for those on heart-healthy diets. What makes this especially concerning is how the heritage imagery creates a health halo effect. Many consumers, particularly older Britons, associate traditional food production with superior nutritional quality. This psychological association can lead to overconsumption of a product that requires careful moderation, especially for those managing cholesterol or heart conditions. The reality of Country Life production bears little resemblance to the idyllic farm imagery on its packaging. While legally British, the industrial-scale dairy operations supplying this brand operate very differently from the traditional farming methods suggested by its marketing. The nostalgic packaging masks modern mass production methods optimized for yield and profit rather than nutritional excellence. This calculated exploitation of agricultural nostalgia represents a form of emotional manipulation, specifically targeting seniors' trust in traditional food systems. When your farm-fresh butter potentially undermines the very health conditions common in its most loyal consumers, the heritage becomes a Trojan horse for cardiovascular risk factors entering the diet under the guise of traditional quality. Anchor Butter has successfully cultivated an image of pristine dairy excellence through its association with New Zealand's agricultural reputation. The packaging shows lush green pastures and clear skies, suggesting unspoiled natural environments producing superior dairy products. That premium positioning implies the geographical source provides inherent quality advantages over domestic alternatives. This marketing narrative, however, conceals a fundamental contradiction that affects both quality and environmental impact. New Zealand origin necessarily means butter that has travelled approximately 11,500 miles before reaching British supermarket shelves. Despite refrigerated shipping, this extreme distance inevitably impacts freshness and nutritional integrity in ways carefully obscured from consumers. What is particularly deceptive is how Anchor maintains a bright yellow appearance despite extended transportation time. The product contains added beta-carotene colouring to create the impression of fresh grass-fed butter. While legally permitted, this colouring affects certain consumers differently, particularly seniors with sensitive digestion or a history of gallstones, who may experience digestive discomfort from these additives. Beyond freshness concerns, the carbon footprint of shipping butter halfway around the world contradicts the natural, environmentally conscious image shown on packaging. The pristine landscapes on the box exist in stark contrast to the substantial environmental impact of long-distance dairy transportation. Nutritionally, testing reveals that imported Anchor butter typically contains lower natural omega-3 ratios compared to domestic grass-fed alternatives. These essential fatty acids are important for older consumers managing inflammation and cognitive health, yet they diminish during extended storage and transportation periods. Most troubling is how Anchor commands premium pricing despite these compromises. British consumers pay extra for butter that is fundamentally older, nutritionally diminished, and environmentally problematic compared to domestic options. The premium positioning exploits the perception that geographical distance equates to superior quality. This calculated distance deception particularly impacts older consumers who grew up associating New Zealand with Commonwealth quality and trustworthiness. The exploitation of that historical association to sell dairy that has travelled farther than most holiday destinations represents a systematic betrayal of consumer trust, disguised as international premium quality. Lurpak has achieved something remarkable in British food culture. It has legendary status as the gold standard of butter quality. Its distinctive silver foil packaging with blue trim has become instantly recognisable, representing Danish dairy excellence and European butter tradition. For generations of Britons, Lurpak has symbolized quality worth paying extra for. This carefully cultivated premium position has built extraordinary brand loyalty, particularly among older consumers who have kept choosing Lurpak through decades of grocery shopping. That loyalty is a remarkable achievement in consumer trust and brand building. Yet this very trust has been systematically exploited through gradual but significant changes to what is actually inside that iconic silver wrapper. Standard Lurpak now contains approximately 0.9 grams of salt per 100 grams, creating significant sodium concerns for seniors managing hypertension or cardiovascular conditions. For those taking blood pressure medications, this hidden sodium load works against their prescribed treatment plans. Perhaps most concerning is how Lurpak has quietly introduced blended products containing rapeseed oil while keeping packaging and positioning nearly identical to the traditional butter. Lurpak Spreadable, often bought by consumers believing they are simply getting more convenient butter, actually contains significant non-dairy ingredients despite premium butter pricing. The price point itself represents another form of exploitation targeting loyal consumers. Lurpak has implemented dramatic price increases in recent years, with costs rising approximately 30% since 2021, far outpacing general inflation or increases in production costs. These premium prices disproportionately impact pensioners on fixed incomes who have decades of brand loyalty to Lurpak. What makes this particularly troubling is how familiar packaging and branding mask these systematic changes in formulation and value. The silver foil still suggests premium quality while containing a product that has gradually moved away from the pure Danish butter that originally earned consumer trust. For older consumers who have purchased Lurpak for decades, there is a special sense of betrayal in this bait and switch. The butter brand they loyally supported has fundamentally changed while maintaining the pretense of tradition. The European heritage positioning now masks a product increasingly defined by industrial compromises and profit maximization, rather than Danish dairy excellence. This is the ultimate exploitation of consumer trust, using decades of quality association to sell products that increasingly diverge from what originally earned that trust. When lifelong butter loyalty funds systematic deception that can potentially threaten medication effectiveness while extracting premium prices for increasingly compromised products, the tradition becomes exploitation disguised as European excellence. From Danish deception empires to New Zealand freshness fraud, from farm-fresh saturated fat bombs to legal butter terminology theft, these 7 brands prove the dairy industry has systematically weaponized heritage marketing against consumer health, while targeting senior trust in traditional agricultural quality. They have kept familiar names, patriotic imagery, and heritage promises, while filling packages with industrial processing, chemical dilution, and formulations that are dangerous for aging cardiovascular and digestive systems. The promise of traditional dairy quality has become a systematic agricultural betrayal, designed to exploit senior loyalty to familiar brands while extracting premium profits for inferior, health-threatening products. And here is the bigger question. If this is happening with something as simple and universal as butter, what else in our kitchens might not be what it claims to be? Are you absolutely gobsmacked by what you heard? Subscribe now and share this video with someone you care about before they spread more lies on their morning toast.